Don't believe the hype about renewable energy.
So here's another UK hack trying to sell the idea of going backwards.
Number 1. The cost. In the UK, renewable energy firms are paid a guaranteed subsidised price for their electricity.
Sounds like a flaw with the UK government to me. So he'll go on to explain how government capture in California led to similar costs there, and how Germany's frantic race to get out of nuclear following Fukushima led to increased costs there. But this has nothing to do with the underlying technology. So here you can see the actual price decline in solar, exponential since 2008, when the Chinese got seriously into manufacturing it. Wind wasn't exactly exponential, but pretty close to that. So 40x drop over 30 years, something like 10x drop over the last 10, and this year alone, it's expected to drop by 50%.
Number 2. Reliability.
So what he's talking about here is intermittency. When the grids were first done, they were just power plants connected to people. But it meant that people used electricity differently at different times of the day. So you had to work with that by having smaller plants, some of them called peaker plants, that burn stuff really inefficiently to get the electricity up to that level nice and fast. There was no intelligent grid. There was no storage other than pumping water uphill and letting it come back down again to take the energy back again. Nothing like the intelligence that we have in products today.
Wind farms can't produce energy when the wind doesn't blow, and solar farms can't produce energy when the sun doesn't shine.
He's correct on the intermittency, but what it highlights is the years that we've just not bothered to figure out how to balance the grid. We've had the technology for years, so we should do it now.
This is hardly ideal for a modern industrialised society where we need to access electricity on demand.
Unfortunately, Britain's gone from an attitude of the sun doesn't set to Brexit. And if you look at the continent of Europe and Asia, well, as soon as the sun sets in the Azores, it rises in the Sea of Japan. So we don't really have a lack of those type of resources. We're just not connected. And here's how we can do it. So you see here, China has used high voltage direct current lines to connect the deserts to the east coast where the industry goes on, 3,400 kilometers. And these things can go even further.
Renewables actually stop producing much of their electricity at precisely the time of year when we need it most.
All that's missing here is imagination. You can configure your system to be 100% in the winter. Your power supplier doesn't want you to have that kind of imagination. But if it's 100% in the winter, it's going to be 150%, maybe even 200% in the summer. What would you do with that extra energy? I'm sure you'd find something.
Too much wind means the turbines have to be switched off. Otherwise, the national grid would become dangerously overloaded.
Again, lack of imagination. If the national grid are incapable of dealing with that kind of intermittency, then you should take the stuff for yourself. It's energy for nothing. You can use it for aluminum smelting. You can use it for whatever you want to use it for. It's actually free energy. What aren't you getting here?
Number 3. Storage.
So here's where he demonstrates what little he knows about storage. Though, to be fair, a lot of the solutions that are available are kind of not available because of planning and various things that hold them up. And I'll get to that later.
What if we just store all that extra energy we get from wind and solar farms on the days when it's particularly windy or sunny? Can't batteries just hold on to all that energy for us? Unfortunately, no.
So what he's pointing out is that we don't have the resources to do all our backups with lithium ion. Um, if you look at the background here, this is a place called Turlock Hill. It's an electricity backup done by the Irish power company. There's no lithium in that. Now, I wouldn't advocate for this particular solution. There's actually a town at the bottom of that lake. Um, Solutions like it work quite well. And there's plenty of sites all over the world where this can be done, where you can use completely sealed systems that don't interfere with the local environment. That's just one of the solutions, and I'll show you some more. The very definition of potential energy raises and lowers blocks to store and release energy. Here's Donald Sadoway, who has made a battery out of liquid metal. It's very heavy, but if it's just going to sit there, who cares? You can make as many of them as you like. You can store heat in molten salt, containers of sand, or blocks of aluminum or carbon.
Number 4. The environment. Governments love to proclaim that their nations are powered by wind and solar, but behind the scenes, every advanced country has a fleet of fossil fuel power stations on standby.
To give him his due, he understands the politics of the situation, but it takes a while for politics to catch up with reality.
The blades of wind turbines are actually made from carbon fibre.
Making carbon fiber is a way of sequestering carbon, and carbon fiber does not have to be made out of petroleum. It just as easily be made from hemp. Besides, using plastics and coal to make things is a whole lot different to burning it like a fool. Besides the fact that it's polluting, it may even be causing dementia at this stage, the fumes that are in the air. It's just not cost effective anymore.
Wind and solar farms take up vast amounts of space.
Look like pinpricks on the landscape to me.
When a solar farm is decommissioned, it produces 300 times more toxic waste than a nuclear power plant does.
This information is completely out of date. Back in the early days of the space race, we used things like gallium arsenide for solar panels, and that was pretty toxic. But that's never used now. And besides, the stuff in solar panels is so valuable that it never gets thrown away. It's just recycled.
So let's ditch the fantasy of a world powered by wind and solar, and let's fight for a future of cheap, reliable, and plentiful energy instead.
So now we see who he is, an advocate for the fossil fuel companies. It's 2024. On a cost basis, the race is already won. We no longer have to subsidize renewables. So let's take it away. Let's take it away from everything. Take away the fossil fuel subsidies. They never deserved it in the first place. And we no longer have to compromise between having a clean world and having energy. We can now have both. Why would anybody refuse that? Renewables is not just about the planet. It's about breaking the monopolies that poison and destroy us all. Please like and subscribe.